Dave, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to just talk to us and talk to the folks at Long Hollow. Appreciate all that you are doing in the governor's office. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really familiar with what your office did before this pandemic hit. Could you explain just a little bit about what your office does?
Yeah, and it's not surprising that you don't know about it. Thank you, by the way, for allowing me to be here and be a part of sharing with folks at Long Hollow. Long Hollow's got an incredible reputation, not only in Nashville, but beyond. And it's just an honor to be a part of what you all are doing. Not surprising you don't know about our office. Our office was established for the first time in the state of Tennessee starting last year. It went through the first legislative session during this governor, and it was established. I started in June of last year. Spent the first 9 months really traveling the state, meeting with nonprofits and church leaders and city and county officials, trying to understand what was going on and what the needs were. We didn't want to replicate anything that was out there. We really wanted to understand that if God had moved in the governor's heart to establish this role, there had to be some purpose that he had for it. And so we really began that process of trying to discern that. So what we've figured prior to COVID-19, when the governor asked us to do this, he asked us to leverage the faith-based communities and the nonprofit communities for the benefit of the citizens of Tennessee. It's kind of the whole charge. It's a broad statement. So then when you start looking at how do we actually do that and what does that mean and what is it that people can be leveraged, if you will, the organizations can be leveraged to do. And what we found was that there are great social challenges going on out there that the churches, the faith-based nonprofits and the secular nonprofits have been taking the lead on for a long time in the church. And so our goal is to begin to take those great challenges out there, unify the work that's taking place, identify from a ground engaged level the ideas that are out there, and try to develop a statewide strategy that we can actually make a significant difference. Yeah.
I saw a quote from Governor Lee when he was establishing your office that really resonated with me as a church leader. He said, "I don't believe that government is the answer to the greatest challenges that we have today." It really sounds like he believes in a partnership between state government and faith-based communities to meet those social challenges that you're talking about.
Yeah, and you add to that the nonprofit communities, the academic communities, the business communities, but particularly what he sees is and what he's experienced, and that was part of it, coming out of a business background, coming out of being involved in a number of nonprofits. He recognized that when the government perhaps isn't trying to solve the problem, or they only are focused on solving the problem when there's funding available, and that makes sense, but the nonprofits are focused on it all the time. And if they're faith-based nonprofits, their results tend to be higher than any others. The motivation that they have, the passion that they come from. And even the nonprofits that don't carry the name of faith-based, when you walk in the door and you meet with them, like most of the food banks around the state, they're not going to be Christian food banks or faith-based food banks. But you walk in and talk to the volunteers, everyone that I've met will tell you that they're there as an expression of their faith. That this is their Sunday school class. This is what they've come from their church. This is what they do, and they do this as an expression of their faith and care for their neighbor.
Well, can you share any stories that you've seen during this period of faith-based organizations, churches, or nonprofits coming alongside others, or the efforts of the governor to help other people?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, that's the majority of the issues that have come up have all been, the churches have just been incredibly responsive to what's taken place. Two or three things that we've seen that the churches have just stepped up. One is when the schools closed, as you know, a lot of the kids that are in different parts of the state, but they're only healthy meal, if you will. That's probably too strong of a statement, but they have a primary meal that they'll receive from school every year, every day. And when school stops, oftentimes those schools will send home lunches or something in a brown bag or something for the weekend, so the kids will have something to eat over the weekend. Well, when schools shut down, there were major concerns about how we're going to keep these kids fed. And the churches all over the state stepped up, and they started going and picking up these meals and delivering them to the central places. And then at some points in rural areas where people didn't have transportation, particularly, they were actually taking them to people's homes and just leaving them on the steps. And they've been doing that now ever since this thing started, and churches have stepped up to do that. We had a request that came in from our office that works primarily with seniors. A lot of seniors around the state, they'll be involved in these senior centers in the local community. They have Meals on Wheels. They'll have at the centers, they may have meals they're provided. But all that stopped when everybody stopped congregating. And a lot of the seniors have been left alone in their homes. So what they wanted to do is they just asked for churches that might step up and make phone calls to some of these seniors and ask, how are you guys doing? Do you need food? Do you need medicine? What can we help with? And there was a lot of help around that they could simply reach out and gather for them. I talked to the director of that department the other day, and she said it's been an overwhelming response that the churches have just come in and they've not only called, but they've said, oh yeah, by the way, we've got members in our church that ought to be on that list. And gosh, we didn't know these services existed. Can they participate here? And they've just been incredibly pleased to see that. The Department of Veterans Affairs have been working through churches to reach the veterans that they have. The Department of Mental Health has been reaching out to churches to try to help provide help for people that are calling them and dealing with anxiety or just concern during this time. The churches have just been absolutely amazing for what's happening.
Yeah. How can we be praying as a church for Governor Lee and his leadership and you and your leadership right now?
Yeah, I covet prayer. There's two things I would ask for. We did start, the very first thing that our department did was start a prayer initiative for all elected and appointed leaders. So we have the executive branch, judicial branch, and legislative branch by name every day. And the way it's structured, because it's over 100 days, whenever you sign up, you start at day one. Well, everybody eventually is prayed for every day. But if folks would like to join us in that, it's a short guided prayer with 5 names, specifically asking for 4 things for people. When we started this, we didn't want to ask from them anything. So we just said, Lord, what do we want for them? And the list became pretty quick. We want wisdom and discernment and compassion and love and care. We want them to have all these things that God intended for them to have, so that when they govern, they will govern from that position. And I can tell you, when I'm talking to the elected officials and the commissioners that are appointed and all the others that we talk to, they genuinely appreciate knowing they're being prayed for by people across the state. So that's one thing I would ask. And you can find that on our website. But if anyone wants to join that prayer initiative, that would be huge for us. Specifically, I know the governor asks for regularly prayers for wisdom and discernment. It's the 2 things that, when the Lord came to, I think it was David, and said, what do you want? What can I give you? And he said, this is what I would ask for. And so the Lord gave him so much more, because he didn't ask for the wealth or success on the battlefield or whatever else. And he's kind of taken that and said, that's really we need that in everything that we do. So wisdom and discernment is critically important for him. He often asks for prayer for his family as well. It's very hard on the family. The hours he's been working during this season of time have just been ridiculous. And he does have children and grandchildren that he would love to be spending some time with, that they don't get to spend that much time with him because he's just consumed in what's taking place. I mean, that's a role. He understands that. God's called into this. This is what he feels like he's doing, and he's accepting it. But it is hard on them.
Well, I think we take for granted that our elected officials are people. They have families and they have lives outside of the meetings we see on TV, the press conferences we see on TV. We will be praying for you and for the governor and for our legislatures. We know that this is not an easy time. We know that every decision is going to be criticized by someone. And so we'll pray for wisdom. Please know that we appreciate the sacrifice that you're making. We probably don't fully grasp the difficulty of your job, but we do appreciate everything you're doing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And let me mention one other thing that I would share with you all as we are emerging, hopefully out of this, and it would be wonderful if we had vaccines by the fall. I don't know what that's going to look like, but just an encouragement for the folks at Long Hollow. I believe that there are going to be a lot of people that as the economy begins to open back up, that are going to begin to ask some really good questions, and I think are going to be seeking wisdom and going to be asking spiritual questions.
Mhm.
What is this all about? What I thought I put my life in and my work suddenly stopped because of a virus that I couldn't see. I would love to know if there's something more. And I think there's going to be an opportunity for churches in a very winsome way to be able to invite people in to conversations that I think is going to make a major difference for them. And it's my hope and prayer that far more people will come to the Lord Jesus Christ as a result of this pandemic, and the way the churches have responded and the way the churches will emerge from this. But it's the care and compassion of folks around. It's huge.
Amen. We
So,
do too. That's our hope and prayer and
yeah,
belief too, that
yeah,
God's using this for the good.
yeah,
So we're excited to see what comes out of it. Dave, thanks for
yeah.
joining us and sharing a little bit about what's happening.
Collin, thank you very much. And if there's anything I can ever do, don't hesitate to give me a call. And thank you guys at Long Hollow for the incredible job you're doing in Nashville. So thank you.